Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ultimate Fashion Histories Speaking of Fashion series, a series of tiny videos aimed at new fashion students based on some questions that my own fashion students often ask me, or indeed some concepts and ideas that they sometimes find confusing. This time around I'm going to show you some really easy ways to differentiate between fashion in the 30s and fashion in the 1940s. Now, of course, I am generalizing and there always are exceptions to every rule, aren't there? But generally, if you follow these tips, you'll soon be able to instantly spot the difference between these two stylish decades. Fashion and beauty in the 1930s is defined by a return to femininity after that boyish silhouette of the 1920s. It was a very slinky silhouette generally. Think lace, think bias cuts, think fluttering details, very dainty and very feminine. Hemlines dropped in the Great Depression. Hemlines in the 30s would rise slowly throughout the decade, but generally all hemlines in the 1930s fell somewhere between just past the knee and just above the ankle. Sort of lower calf is the 1930s hemline. The palette was delicate, it was gentle, mauve, dusty pink, things like that. And generally prints were very tiny and densely packed. Shoes, again, very dainty, very ladylike. They're the key words of the 1930s. It was all about a return to ladylike and feminine propriety. In 1939, World War II broke out and fashion responded. The silhouette became much stronger, more masculine and bold, with big, heavy shoulders. And because of fabric rationing, hemlines would rise. Hemlines in the 1940s were mid-knee or just past the knee, much higher than in the 1930s. The palette was much bolder. Primary colors were very popular generally. And prints became larger and more dramatic. Shoes became higher, clumpier and sturdier. And of course it's in the 1940s that we get those wonderful platform heels. So the key words for the 1930s: feminine, delicate, ladylike. 40s, bold, strong, dramatic. Both are great. Which do you prefer? Let's take a look at beauty. The ideal beauty and makeup look of the 30s. Very thin, very high arched eyebrows, soft neutral eyeshadows in mauve and beige, because everything was about the eyelashes, usually false, very long on the tops and often on the bottoms. A high natural peachy blush, and then a glossy lip in a dark hue. Hair in the 30s was soft. A popular hairstyle was to have it cropped, side parted, and then Marcel waved or finger waved. Take a look at this picture of Jean Harlow, a big movie star of the 1930s. You can see she has this makeup look and this beauty ideal. And there again, that wonderful, softly waving 30s hair, flat on top and full at the sides and the bottom. Some women who didn't want to cut their hair had finger waved or Marcel waved hair in an updo, often scrunched in the back of their neck like this. Now let's look at the 1940s beauty ideal, and you'll see there's really a big difference. A much thicker and more natural eyebrow, with an arch of course. Very neutral eyeshadow, barely there, and all of the attention was on the upper lid, with a little eyeliner but lots of eyelashes. Not a cat eye though, that came later, didn't it, in the 50s. A much more healthy, sort of robust blush, but instead of being high on the cheekbone, it's really on the flat of the cheek, almost just below the cheekbone. A very contoured, bright red lip, that was the ideal, and then complicated updos involving a lot of rolls. Any 1940s hair with a roll in it is called a victory roll because it was all about victory in World War II, often adorned with flowers and things like that. Here is Betty Grable, a big star of the 1940s, and you can see her natural brow, those long eyelashes and that very contoured lip. Hair, though, in the 1940s could be worn long in these beautiful waves, like Rita Hayworth right here. Anyone with long hair in the 1930s never wore it down. That is something that I don't even have to generalize about. They really didn't. But in the 1940s, although the updos were very popular, women did wear their hair down too. So just to briefly recap, fashion in the 30s: feminine, delicate, dainty, ladylike, little shoulders, longer hemline. In the 40s, bolder, stronger, big shoulders and shorter skirts. So if you see a contemporary collection that looks like this, you can obviously say it was inspired by the 1930s, whereas this one was inspired by the 1940s. So I hope that's cleared up the difference between the 1930s and the 1940s. Of course, we have everything here on the Ultimate Fashion History, and we have a much longer and more detailed video lecture about the 1930s. We have one on fashion in the 1940s, and we even have a short tutorial on how to get those 1940s victory rolls in under 1 minute. You can contact me through my website, amandahalley.com, and I'll be back very soon with more on the Ultimate Fashion History, so just click the little circle to subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.